just letting you know, we have a total of 111 people signed up for the March retreat. So if you were too busy with exams, so you completely forgot about March retreat, the registration is actually closed, but do let me know. I'll see what I can do. But yeah, we're looking forward to having our March retreat, which is coming up. So please pray for our guest speaker, and also please pray for everything to go smoothly, right? Now, my wife and I are both foodies, right? So we put so much emphasis on what we eat and how we eat. Both of us strive towards eating healthy, but there are times when we just can't help but to eat out, right? Of course, we pick our restaurants very carefully, just so we don't end up wasting our money. But in Toronto, I find that it's often difficult to find a really, really good spot that is both healthy and tasty at the same time. So when we want to try out somewhere new, we always open our Google Maps and look at the reviews of the place that we want to try out, right? Here's a little tip if you're a picky eater like me. First, we look at the star rating, of course, and then we look at how many reviewers they review the restaurant. Okay, that's also important, okay? And if the number and the rating are both high, we then look at what people wrote in the comment section. And then, we don't stop there, and then we look at the most sought dishes in the restaurant and contemplate whether we should go, right? And when we both, agree, we go and try out the new place. But whenever we're reading the comment in the review section, I actually discovered something psychologically interesting. I found out that we are usually being influenced heavily by the negative comments than the positive ones. For instance, there used to be a famous Italian restaurant around in our neighborhood. So whenever we drove past the restaurant, we would always remind one another, hey, we should try out that place. I heard some good things about it. Right? We would just remind each other to go and try one day. But after reading Google reviews, we always end up not going there because there was one person, there was a single comment. There was one person who mentioned about finding a hair in their food. So annoying, right? Even though it was just one negative comment, it really, really put us off. Right? So actually, we actually ended up not going there until it closed down permanently, so we can never go there anymore. So like this, I find that one negative comment always overpowers, right? 100 or even 1,000 positive comments. And that's probably why a lot of restaurant owners now, they care so much about maintaining a good reputation or review. Now, in today's passage, we see a similar thing happening within the Israelites' camp. Of course, they didn't have Google reviews back then, so it's got nothing to do with rating how good or bad a restaurant is. But in the sense that they started to complain, it was somewhat like writing a negative comment in the Google review. So let me first explain the context of today's passage, and we're going to see how we can apply this message into our lives, all right? Now, today, we move away from the book of Leviticus. We talked about Leviticus last week, right? And we now enter into the book of what? Book of Numbers. Now, Numbers is the fourth book in the Old Testament, and just like how I explained last week about the meaning of Leviticus, the book of Numbers also has an important meaning, all right? And if you explore the original Hebrew title for Numbers, you would actually be surprised to know that it's got nothing to do with numbers, right? Book of Numbers, it's got nothing to do with numbers. It's crazy, right? Now, in Hebrew Bible, which is called Tanakh, the book of Numbers is called what? Anybody know? Any Jewish here? No. Anybody know what it's called? It's called the Midbar. The Midbar. And if you translate this word into English, what do you get? You don't get numbers. Instead, what do you get? It's completely different, right? In the wilderness. So the book of Numbers contains many, many stories of Israelites wandering in the wilderness, in the desert. So it kind of continues where Exodus left off, right? Which was about 1 year after they left Egypt. So just like how we have like prequels and sequels of a movie or a video game, the book of Numbers, it'll actually act as a sequel of the book of Exodus. So if you want to read the whole narrative, just read the Exodus, and then you skip Leviticus, and you go right into Numbers. It actually connects. Okay? So it continues the book of Numbers continues to describe what the Israelites had to go through in the wilderness until they entered the Promised Land. So let's see what they went through in today's passage. Now, after the miraculous feeding of manna from God, we all know that story, right? The Israelites actually continued to walk through the wilderness, in a pack, in a multitude. But while they were moving together, some non-Israelites in the crowd, they began to complain about their limited variety of foods. Right? They were like, oh, I'm only eating this every day. I'm only eating manna every day. I'm getting sick of it. They were starting to complain about their limited variety of foods. Now you might wonder how these non-Israelites were within the Israelites' camp. But these people were actually outsiders who joined the Israelite camp after seeing God's powerful intervention in Egypt. So these guys were highly likely to be Egyptians. They're not Israelites, right? And even though they were not Israelites, they chose to abandon their home. They chose to leave their homeland and stay with Israel. But there was a problem with these outsiders. Since they were deeply immersed in Egyptian culture, they could not completely leave Egypt behind, in their heart at least. It's just like how I left Korea like 25 years ago, yet I still preserve my Korean identity and my language to this day. These Egyptians could not remove their Egyptian ways of living completely. And because they were outsiders, they began to complain about the food that they ate in the wilderness. They looked back to their life in Egypt, and then they went like, oh, this is not right. This is suffocating. And they started to spread the negativity all throughout the Israelites' camp. And what happened right after that? Once the negativity, just like my review thing, once the negativity started spreading out into the camp, other Israelites, they started to complain as well. It influenced so rapidly that all the other people began to complain together. So despite God's provision, they were quick to forget His grace. Now, I have a really, really important question for all of you guys today. Here it is. Was the food in Egypt really free for the Israelites? If you look at the verse 5 that we're going to look at today, soon, they say, hey, I ate all these. I enjoyed all those foods back in Egypt for free. It says at no cost. But think about it. Was the food in Egypt really free for the Israelites? What do you guys think? What did they have to pay in order to enjoy the variety of foods? $3? $4? No. The answer is slavery. Guys, we often overlook this completely, but the Israelites always had to pay a heavy price of slavery in order to enjoy civilization. Right? As you all know, nothing comes free in human society. You go anywhere, nothing comes for free in human society. Whether it's Korean society, Canadian society, American society, New Zealand society, doesn't matter. Nothing ever comes free in human society. And it was the same for the Israelites back in the Old Testament. Yes, they could enjoy fish, they could enjoy cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic, for sure. But was it actually for free? much as they wanted to believe that they could consume all those things for free, the truth was that they had to be slaves in order for them to enjoy all those foods. So, let me read Numbers 11:5. While I read this, try to pinpoint what the Israelites were saying, okay? This is what they said. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. Now, interesting how the Israelites started to believe that they ate everything freely back in Egypt, right? But that's not true. They completely forgot about their slavery. And they were only remembering the good things about their past. So they were being very selective with their memory. And this is what complaints do to people. This is what complaints do to people, guys. It blinds them to not see the reality properly, and it always distorts the truth. It distorts the truth, the complaint. It distorts the truth. I mean, I briefly mentioned last Sunday about what happened in the Garden of Eden, right? The serpent came to Eve and twisted the truth by saying what? What did the serpent say? Did God really say? Distortion. So the serpent was distorting the truth, so Eve could not see things straight. And the very same thing was happening in today's passage, right? The rabble, the mobs, the non-Israelites, they began to spread negativity within the crowd, which affected a lot of people to complain together. So they were gaslighting God's people to complain to their loving God by making them believe in lies. This is a lie. They paid, a heavy price of slavery. Yet they said what? At no cost. This is a lie. It's a deception. So they were making people to think that they need more than what God was already providing them. You know, every now and then, I spend some time on Instagram and look through people's stories. Ooh, scary. There I see a lot of soccer-related, European League-related posts by Christopher. Hi. And I started to see more posted by Nikki, right? Which is good. And I also see many of you guys reposting your friends' selfies and videos. As a millennial, I genuinely want to know why you guys actually repost other people's story when you're not in it. I actually don't understand. So if any of Gen Zs or Gen A's can explain that to me, I would, appreciate it so much. Anyways, I don't mean to spy on your personal life, but I just happened to see some of them because we're following each other on Instagram. So yeah, anyways. But recently, one of my friends posted a picture that made me to feel a bit sad and insecure about myself. And it further led me to complain about my life because mine did not look as exciting as his. I mean, we all go through that, right? We flick through all the stories and we go like, hey, how come my life isn't as fancy as that guy's, right? We do that. And the picture wasn't anything fancy, to be honest, but it was him flying off to Mexico to visit his friend. Now, I don't even know why I felt terrible about myself when I saw that picture, but it really stirred me up big time. I don't know why. Maybe I was stressed out over ministry, or maybe I was just burned out and needed a break. Who knows what it is? But whatever the reason was, I began to complain about my life as a pastor, and I started to desire something fancier and something more spectacular. We go through that all the time. And even though God blessed me with so many different things, I actually refuse to appreciate what God has given me by comparing myself to my friend. But then, what do you think I did as the temptation came by? What do you think I did, guys? I'm a pastor, right? What do you think I did? Well, as much as I want to confidently tell you today that I overcame it with God's Word, I actually failed big time. I'm also a human being, right? And I completely lost myself in depressing thought patterns. I began to beat myself up. I felt bad towards my wife because I thought I wasn't competent enough. And I also felt insignificant, completely insignificant. How pathetic I am. I keep feeding myself those toxic thoughts. You might assume that pastors got their lives sorted out, right? But no, we also go through these challenges, right? Anyways, just like the Israelites in today's passage, I was also affected by my surroundings, by the people around me. So I refused to look at what God was doing in my life. And that's what happened to me. This is what we do all the time, isn't it? We often become discontent with what God has given us because we stop looking at Him. We stop looking up. Instead, where do we look? Oh, my friend, Matthew. Oh, my friend, Isabella. We look around. And we begin to compare ourselves to them. And what do? We complain. Oh, God, why did you not give me this? Oh, God, why did you not give me that? I wanted to have that. We start to look around. And we refuse to look up. Right? And then when we start to complain about ourselves because we look sideways, what do? We get distorted. Our truth, what we believe, gets distorted, right? Now our talents, we stack our talents, our blessings, and our accomplishments, yet we point to other people and say, hey God, why did you not bless me with those beautiful double eyelids? You know what I'm saying? I don't have them. Hey God, why didn't you make me taller than Thomas so I can be better at basketball? We forget about all those good things gifted by God, yet we complain about what we don't have. And just like how the Israelites diminished God's provision of manna, and then they complained about the variety of foods, we also forget about many, many great things that we already possess. But guys, you know what? There's a little secret. There's a good reason why God did not give you whatever you desire in the first place. There's a good reason. Well, we may never find out why, but when God does not give certain things to us, there is a good reason for it. I mean, in the past, I always envy those who had perfect pitch. Hands up if you have a perfect pitch here. Whoa. Whoa, that's insane. I always envy those who had perfect pitch in the past, not right now, right? For those of you who know, I studied music at the university, but I was so bad at playing things by ear, right? So I often wondered why I wasn't blessed with such talent. Because I wanted to hear, and then I was like, oh, C, D, E, F, G, and then just play it by ear, right? But later on, I found out that if I had that perfect pitch, I might not have chosen my path to become a pastor, which is a blessed journey, right? So, guys, we have to understand that when we start comparing and complaining about what we don't have, we start to diminish what God has already blessed us with. So, to wrap up, this is my message for you today. Well, this is God's message for you today. Stop looking around and compare yourselves to the people around you. No. Yeah, right. Stop complaining, guys, okay? And if you can, try not to distract other Christians, right, by not bragging about your life on social media. Come on, young people, gotta wake up, eh? One of the reasons why I don't brag about my life on Instagram is because I understand this dynamic, right? For instance, if I brag about my little daughter, how cute she is, how smart she is on Instagram all the time, what's going to happen? I might unintentionally stumble somebody who's having a hard time conceiving a baby. Right? Now, you might think I'm being too paranoid about this, but no. As Christians, we need to help one another not to fall into the spirit of complaining, all right? Instead, we must help each other to look up so they will not be distracted by their surroundings, all right? So you and I have a job to do. Okay? Stop posting those fancy stuff on Instagram. If you want to do that, just do it to your close friends, not to everyone. Okay? So quit complaining, and also quit bragging, so other people won't complain. So again, do not seek other things above seeking the Lord your God. Be content with what you have, because God has given you all those things to you, and He knows what is needed for you and me. So stop complaining, everyone, and start appreciating God's provision in your lives. Allow me to leave you with a Bible verse as I wrap up. Philippians chapter 4, verse 12. I might be cherry-picking this Bible verse, but it conveys a message here. So, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. This is the Word of God.
Thanks be to God.
So I pray that you and I will be able to confess what Paul confessed here and start trusting God's provision even in times of need. Let us pray.